everyone. Welcome back to Sportsbook Review's coverage of the Premier League 2021 to 22 season. I'm your host, Martin Green. I have alongside me Matt Lawrence and George Gamble. George, I think you had a pretty good week last weekend. What went right for you?
Yeah, it did go right. So obviously, at first knockings, I think the first one I had was on the Friday between Arsenal and Brentford, and I believe I said, I thought Brentford could do very well against Arsenal, and as it turns out, that's exactly what happened. But I went on I thought I'd risk it, and on the first game of the new season, go on the cards line. So I went on the over 3 Asian cards line, and there's a grand total of none. So it wasn't really what I wanted to see to kick off the weekend in the new season. But the two after that obviously flew in. Everton beating Southampton at home 3-1. And obviously just about scraped past with the Chelsea to win and over 2.5 goals. And it was very fortunate, if you like, considering that there was a couple of wonder goals in there. But yeah, Chelsea dominated from start to finish and probably should have put a few more chances away. So I'd say it was deserved. But yeah, 2 out of 3. Very happy with the start to the season. Long may it continue.
Not bad indeed. Yeah, I didn't have Everton in my official picks, but I firmly agreed with you there. And Matt, I think you made a profit too. Perhaps not quite as spectacular, but it's a good strong start to the season. You had Liverpool to score in both halves, didn't you? It was a good weekend.
It was a good weekend. 2 for 3. We'll take it to start the season. I know the highlighted pick was Leeds, which was absolutely diabolical. But I didn't put 2 units on that pick, for example. It's just kind of still 1 unit. I thought it might be the best pick of the week, but Leeds were naive, to say the least. They scored the equalizer in the second half. You're thinking, game on. This is going to be right up for an old classic between Leeds and Manchester United. And they just, they resorted back to last season's kind of Marcelo Bielsa, just gung-ho, go for it all. So that kind of tempers expectations a little bit for Leeds. But I think when they get Calvin Phillips back in this lineup, they will have a little bit more solidarity there in that middle of the park. And so, but yeah, the Newcastle over 2.5 with West Ham. I mean, that was an easy one, 6 goals. That's always fun. So yeah, good start to the season and ready to crack on.
Great. Yeah, I think we'll be seeing a lot of goals in Leeds games. Not sure against Everton and Benitez this week, but I think goals markets are going to be very attractive when Leeds play. We'll start analysing the games in just a minute. Liverpool to kick things off. But first, it's your daily reminder to please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell. That way you will be notified, as the name suggests, every time we're about to start filming. And head on over to sportsbookreview.com to read a wealth of free, insightful, fantastic content about all sorts of sports. And I have to mention our SBR Pick 6 NFL and college football contest too. $50,000 up for grabs over the course of the season, $1,600 per week, totally free to enter. I'm even entering, and I don't know a great deal about American football, but who knows? We'll see what happens. Okay, kicking things off. Oh, it's a really difficult game because we've got Liverpool versus Burnley. And I mean, I fully expect Liverpool to win, but it's kind of, how do they get the job done at such low odds? You need to be looking at handicaps or throwing in a number of caveats. I think I would be quite happy to give Liverpool a decent handicap in this one. They lost 1-0 to Burnley last season, which was the low point in their campaign. But, they ended the campaign with 8 wins and 2 draws, I think, from their final 10 games, and they destroyed Burnley at Turf Moor. So, Matt, as our resident Liverpool fan, what do you expect from your boys in this one?
I mean, I expect it to be fairly cagey. Burnley do a good job of, keeping it tight. When you're looking at the last 4 matchups between them, you haven't seen more than 3 goals. And generally this line is always set at 3. I kind of mentioned last week that I had an open parlay with Liverpool to beat Norwich on match day 1. And then I've got them to beat Burnley here on match day 2 at -160. So I feel pretty good about it with, them being -500. So I'm not really going to dip my toes into it too much, but for handicapping purposes, I do see this game just being unders, just, with Tarkowski, Pope talked about it. We'll probably talk about them much more this season. They'll be able to stifle Liverpool a bit here. And I don't really expect Burnley to score in this one. So, I see this as kind of a 1-2-0 to Liverpool. And I think that the under 3 goals is safe. I think at worst you'd get your money back. They'll probably roll with the same back four. Fabinho, his dad just passed away, which is really sad and tragic. So he probably won't be in the squad. Maybe he'll be on the bench, but yeah, he's going through some things right now. And we could see a very similar starting 11 from Liverpool, which should be able to get the job done here. But yeah, if I had to play a single on this one, it would be under 3 goals for me.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Yeah, maybe Naby Keita can come back into the team. Just going to do a quick few shout outs to the people in the chat. Piss in a teapot, which is a great handle like that. Mitch is driving to Green Bay for the weekend. Hey, Mitch, hope you have a fun drive down there and a good weekend. Gas, Gmar, Jeremiah Badu, Holla Barsaman. Hey, Jonathan, Jeremiah, Sir Dale, Triplet. Elias says I'm wearing the wrong kit. Well, I was wearing an Arsenal kit for the last video and they went and lost 2-0 to Brentford. So I don't know if I jinxed it. So I'm trying to reverse jinx it this time in my Spain top. Hey, Brian. Hey, Eurovita. Walla Walla Dose. Piss in a Teapot's back. Hey, everyone. Great to have you all here. Thank you for joining us. And it's time to pass over to George Gamble for his take on Liverpool versus Burnley.
Yeah, essentially, I'm just echoing Matt here in my thoughts of that. And, you look at Burnley with the likes of Pope, Tarkowski and me in the side, they're always going to keep things quite reserved, quite tight, and they're going to be very, very physical. And just as he said, I don't see Burnley necessarily scoring in this game. So I think the unders is the way to go in this one. I don't see there being an absolute hatful of goals. I think Liverpool will want to just get the job done. And you look at sort of last season, I think both teams saw 4 or more goals in less than half of their respective home and away matches. It's going to be quite an interesting one because obviously it was Burnley, as you've already mentioned, that I believe it was ended their 68 match unbeaten run at Anfield last season. And that was obviously the catalyst for them going on that minuscule abysmal run at Anfield, which obviously, hampered their season somewhat. So I think, a lot could be made of it, but they'll want to get the job done here and get that win over Burnley. But, they'll make it tough. They will make it very, very tough for this Liverpool side. And for me, yeah, just, I can go into obviously a few more stats, but, Burnley have suffered 10 defeats in their last 14 meetings with Liverpool, and Brighton were able to create so many chances against them. And I think Dyche will want to kind of tighten that up and make sure that doesn't happen, because that's kind of the identity of this Burnley side, keeping things tight, getting, nicking those wins, trying to get what they can against the big sides. So for me, completely agree with Matt. I see Liverpool winning this game. But I'd definitely go on the unders. I mean, to kind of keep things safe, even a sort of Liverpool winning under 3.5 goals for me represents value. I don't see Burnley scoring, but, for me, I don't see Liverpool scoring 4 goals either. So I think that's quite a safe punt here.
Yeah, I could maybe see Liverpool 2-0, Liverpool 3-0, something like that. I think they could keep a clean sheet here. Back at Anfield, full capacity, Van Dijk back in the team. I think it's going to be a buzzing atmosphere. I think they could sweep Burnley aside. Still much debate on whether George is actually Flash's son, because there's way too much hair, but they do have the same eyes. So, yeah.
As long as he's just lucky he hasn't got the same nose, honestly.
Fantastic nose. Okay, we're going to move on to Aston Villa versus Newcastle. Ooh, big game. Aston Villa versus Newcastle. Not the start that Aston Villa wanted to the new season. They lost 3-2 to Watford, didn't they? But I was quite encouraged with the way they came back in the second half. They were woeful in the first half, but they did get back into it, pulled 2 goals back. I think they'll carry a bit of momentum into this game. What do you think, George? Are you on either team here?
No, I'm not on either side. I've taken a kind of different approach to it, but it's an interesting one. I think it came out today that Ollie Watkins still isn't quite fit enough to be taking part in this one, and he's a huge miss for them. He proved last season actually how he is quite vital for them in the goals that he scored. Obviously, this is a new look Aston Villa side we're getting used to without Jack Grealish, and yeah, they were humbled by Watford on the opening day last weekend, and I thought Watford were very, very impressive. And it wasn't the start Dean Smith wanted, with these new players. But the likes of Leon Bailey, they still look very impressive. But yeah, Newcastle in that game against West Ham that obviously Matt was speaking about earlier, I think they looked okay to begin with, obviously taking that lead, but they just can't hold on to Leeds. And that's been a common theme with Newcastle. And But with Villa, I think it's always going to take time to settle after Grealish. You know, he was their captain, he was Mr. Villa, and it's going to be a bit strange and it's going to take a while to get used to not having him in the side. But I'm just looking at the players on show, and for me, I'm excited to see Ismail Assar back in the Premier League this season. You know, he ran Matt Targett absolutely ragged, and Ashley Young actually had to come on for him. So I think Young might keep his spot in the side with Matt Targett maybe on the bench. But looking at Newcastle, they failed to score in 4 of their last 6 visits to Villa Park. It's not been a happy hunting ground for them whatsoever. And I know obviously they got the likes of Callum Wilson and obviously who's scoring the goals for them. But I just think back in front of this Villa crowd, we know how proud this Villa side are, and their fans are going to be right behind them, thinking they can push for Europe this season. Yes, they got off to a pretty bad start against Watford, but the signs were there that they can, cause some damage. They can play some good expansive football, and I think for them, I think they're in with an outside chance, or they believe they're in with an outside chance of Europe this season. And Villa Park's a tough place to go, particularly when you've got the Villa faithful behind them as well. So for me, I do worry, though, that the fact with Ollie Watkins, his work rate is something that they will miss. So I'm expecting quite a cagey affair here, if I'm honest, with no one really wanting to give anything away. But with the players that are available to him, I think Steve Bruce could potentially go with a 3-5-2. So that'll turn obviously into that back 5 without possession, which just lends itself to why I think it could be quite tight and quite cagey. But I do think Villa will dominate the ball. I just think, can they make those chances without Ollie Watkins to kind of win back possession up top in the attacking third? So, I mean, I've got the price of both teams to score no around 1.85. That's minus 118. But the best price available, I found, the odds may have changed since, but was actually plus 125. So I think the values on both teams to score no here. Like I said, I do think it will be a cagey game. Missing Ollie Watkins. Newcastle often, despite having the likes of Callum Wilson, they can struggle for goals. They've not done well at Villa Park. I do quite like the price of both teams to score no on this one.
Okay, thank you, George. Jeremiah Badou's going with Newcastle double chance. Matt, I have a feeling you're going to be taking an opposite tack because you were on both teams to score last weekend and it paid off. Are you expecting more goals from this Newcastle team?
I am. I don't want to, stop going with this, basically. I mean, when I have the front 4 of Maximum, Wilson, Almiron, and Joe Willock, I wonder if Joe Willock will start here. I think that George makes a good point, though, because, I mean, when you're looking at Villa, they conceded 3 goals to Watford last week. Newcastle conceding 4 to West Ham. What's the focus going to be this week for both managers? And when you look at Steve Bruce's comments, which I love to look at managers' comments in the midweek, he mentioned that, they just really struggled to keep it tight. So now you wonder, are they going to resort back to old Steve Bruce here? And it's possible, but I just don't see Newcastle being able to keep the back door closed, really. So I think that Villa will probably score first, and Newcastle are going to have to push from there. So, yeah, I'm on the opposite train here. I think that both teams can score. I think that, Danny Ings will be a fine replacement there up top for Villa. Once Watkins comes back, it's almost like they have a little bit of a selection dilemma, or how they're going to deploy those 2 strikers. But yeah, I think that Ings will be fine, and both teams at least scored goals. They both had 2 last week, so they're both feeling pretty good in front of net. So, all the prior matches between these two have seen, both teams to score rarely come in. Most of them have been under 2.5 goals. I just don't think that that's these teams' MO nowadays. Like, I don't think that's Newcastle's MO with this when they have everyone fit and ready, firing up top. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But, yeah, I've got both teams to score in this one.
Okay, thanks, Matt. I'm going for Aston Villa. I thought they looked pretty good in the second half against Watford, and I think they'll bring a bit of momentum into this game. Home game against Newcastle, good odds. I think they get the job done. Okay, a London derby coming up next. Crystal Palace of South London against newcomers Brentford of West London. Fantastic start to the season for Brentford. Shocking start to the season for Crystal Palace. Very different confidence levels going into this game. How do you see it panning out, Matt?
I would be with Brentford here. I would. I know it's their first road match, so that's why I'm just a bit hesitant and I'm not going to play it. But, for the viewers, I would be on Brentford if I had to play this one. Maybe even, at the plus 190 range in the draw no bet market. Yes, Selhurst Park is a tough place to go play, as we know, but Palace were abysmal last week on the road to Chelsea. They just had no identity whatsoever. Is exactly what we talked about in week one. Patrick Vieira might not really know what's going on and how to get his Palace team firing in the best ways. And I'm looking at the flip side. When you looked at Brentford last week, just cohesion is the first thing that sticks out to you between the manager from the top of the club down to the last player. It's cohesion. And so I would go with cohesion here. Most of the time when I see these kinds of matchups, I always tend to choose the team that I feel like has more chemistry, more cohesion. And I don't see Brentford really being beat here, but it is their first road match in the Premier League. And that's why I've just kind of, put up the caution flag really on this one. But yeah, I think that Brentford might be able to scrape this one. And I at least see them getting something here at Selhurst.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Elias is asking how Zaha is still at Palace. Well, he signed a long-term contract, didn't he? Which he must be regretting all the time. He would have been better off leaving on a free transfer or with just a year left on his deal. But they've been able to hold on to him because it take big money to prize him away, and no one's prepared to pay that for him anymore, which is a shame because he's a top player and he probably does deserve to be playing at a higher level. This one screams past to me. Just leave it alone and move on. Are you passing, George, or you got a bet on this one?
Yeah, I am actually passing it. I'm not having a bet on this one, but if I had to, I think I would agree with Matt entirely. I'd be leaning towards Brentford. The cohesion they've got there. We spoke last week about kind of the way they operate as a club and the underlying data, and the players they've brought in are always just perfect for their system, and you can see that in the way they play. They fight for each other. They're all pulling in the same direction, and the same cannot be said of Crystal Palace. Obviously, we said before how everything just points for me to them being relegation candidates, and they were abysmal against Chelsea, absolutely abysmal. And so obviously Patrick Vieira, I'm sure, will make changes, but I just don't hold any hope for them here. And I was very surprised. I mean, I know it's obviously Brentford had just come up from the Championship, as Matt said, it's their first away game. Crystal Palace are going into this one as favourites, but I don't think they've shown anything. I know it's been one game, but I don't think they've shown anything in that game to suggest that they can do anything against this Brentford side. For me, I would lean towards Brentford getting something from the game, potentially winning. But
yeah, they were desperately poor, weren't they?
They were horrendous, absolutely horrendous. Obviously, they're without the likes of Emerici, Eze, Milivojevic as well. He missed out last weekend through personal reasons, so I'm unsure if he's going to be back. And there are a couple of key players for them as well. And as we spoke about last weekend, they've already missing loads of players, let a lot of players go through their contracts expiring who are key players, and they haven't replaced them. So yeah, for me, I think Brentford, if anything, momentum is key, and they've just come up, want to stay up. If they can get another result here, then what a start it's been for them, and hopefully it can carry them on through the next few games as well. And for them, if they can obviously stay up and have that second season, it'd be great. And there'd be no better way to start by getting 2 wins on the spin, and I think they can do it here against Palace.
Interesting. Okay, thanks, George. We'll move swiftly along to Leeds versus Everton. Leeds, like Matt said, desperately naive against Man United. I did actually expect them to get taken apart, and lo and behold, they were. Everton, much more pragmatic, you would imagine, under Rafa Benitez. This seems like a game that Leeds will be more competitive in, but I don't know if they'll have the ability to deal with the nous of Benitez. Have you got a bet on this one, George?
I do indeed. I'm taking a slightly different approach though, but yeah, as you've mentioned, it was a very tough first game for Leeds in front of a packed Old Trafford. But I do think they were hard. I know you can look at the scoreline, but I think they were hard done by, considering from the chances created. Man United were expected to score just 1.64 goals, but there were some brilliant, breathtaking goals in there that other times would not have gone in. Everything just seemed to click for United on the day, and Bruno Fernandes having an absolute stormer with that hat-trick. But Leeds will come back. They always do under Bielsa. I think it was a similar story last season where they got absolutely pumped by United. And Bielsa, he'll want to put things right, straight away. And this time they're in front of a full house at Ellen Road, where the fans are going to get to see them play live in the Premier League, obviously for that first time since 2004. So Ellen Road is just going to be rocking. I can't wait to kind of see that purely for that factor alone. It's one hell of an occasion for them. And but even without fans, Leeds were kind of reared up throughout last season with a high press, full of energy, and I'm expecting something similar here. And you look at last season, Leeds committed at least 11 fouls in 16 of their 19 home games. just purely because of that intensity and trying to win that ball back so quickly. And you look at Everton's game last weekend against Southampton under Benitez. I think they looked more defensively astute. But yeah, they drew plenty of fouls against Southampton, 18 all told, actually. And they also drew at least 11 fouls on their opponents in 14 of their 19 away matches last season. That was with no fans. And I think the fans are going to have a part to play in this one. I think Leeds, you're going to see an even more pumped up and even more energetic Leeds United side, which is, like I said, why I'm looking forward to watching them. And Leeds, they're going to be keen to get those points on the board. I think they must have gone into that one knowing that chances are we could lose this game. But they'll look at this one and see themselves on an even playing field with Everton and think they can get the win. But yeah, Everton, they've got so many pacey players in that side. Obviously got Damari Gray and Andros Townsend coming into the squad this summer. And Richarlison as well. He's very pacey and they can all hurt you on the counter. So I can see Leeds, being buoyed by their fans getting stuck in to stop any of those threats. So I was very surprised to see the line so low. And if you go on Unibet, actually, it was Leeds to commit over 10.5 fouls. It was a very, very low line. And that was at -118, which I thought was a pick on the different kind of markets on the prop market. So I do really like that one.
Okay, so you've got Leeds to make 11 or more fouls in the game at -118. That's interesting take on it. That's not a market I ever looked at, to be honest. So it's fascinating to hear that and your reason why. Yeah, I think Leeds are going to be just fine this season. I can see them mid-table, maybe even sneaking into the top half. Matt, do you think what do you think in this game? Do you think they'll get the job done, or are you shying away from that and looking at the goals market maybe?
I worry about this matchup, going up against Benitez, who I think that they found exactly what they needed last week with Manchester United and how to deploy that kind of game plan here. But Ellen Road is going to be absolutely rocking. You've seen the market really get a little bit cold on Leeds here. Last week they were hovering around the 2.15 mark in this one, and now they're closer. They've drifted to about 2.4, and I think it is because Everton have such pacey players, like George mentioned, and they will be able to hit them on the break. I think that Everton have enough here to score a goal. And I definitely think that Leeds will, just with having the fans behind them, they normally do score in general. So I've really just kind of been in the middle here. I don't know who's going to win this match. I would probably go towards Leeds if I had to, just kind of what I talked about last week. I think that their next 8 fixtures are pretty soft. This one, just from seeing it last week, scares me off a bit. And now going up against a really top-class manager in Rafa Benitez. So that's what has had me kind of pump the brakes on that one a bit. But I think that we can see both teams to score in over 2.5 here, priced at, in that -110 to -115 range, really depending on where you're shopping. And yeah, I just see Everton being able to hit them on the break. I think that Leeds will score, and I think that this crowd's going to be rocking to push it to a third goal in this one. So yeah, that's where I've kind of landed here.
Like it. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I think definitely avoid the outrights in this one and look at the goals or the fouls, because they do seem reasonably evenly matched to me. Everton perhaps with more individual talent, but Leeds with maybe more of a cohesive unit and a great philosophy under Marcelo Bielsa. It'd be great to watch those two titanic managers go up against one another. Manchester City, not an ideal start to the new season. They lost 1-0 to Spurs. I don't think anyone was expecting that. They're all singing, "Are you watching Harry Kane?" Don't know if he was, but I still think he should join Man City, because I think they would go on and win the league if he does. I have to come to you first, George, seeing as you're the Man City fan. What's the post-mortem of that Tottenham defeat? 2 1-0 losses in a row. Are they gonna respond by just tearing Norwich apart? I think it was 5-0 the last time they met. So we're going to see another. Are we going to see a response from Man City in this game, do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think we'll see a response. I don't know if you saw the clips midweek of Pep Guardiola taking the training and how intense he was, and absolutely going to town on some of the players, because you could just see how he was mimicking the sort of tired, lazy passing, moving, and how he wanted to be more up for it. But no, in terms of last weekend, though, I'm pretty sure I said on here that I don't see why City are at that price and why Tottenham is so high. I think Tottenham could get something from this. City don't look fit enough yet. They don't quite look at the races just yet. Probably about 2, 3, 4 weeks away from peak fitness and match sharpness. And obviously it came to be true. And wasn't surprised that the energy that Spurs had, obviously new manager in front of their fans again. We just didn't look with it. We really didn't. And every time Spurs countered, the fans got right behind them. City had a few chances early doors, but I was very disappointed in the second half with City. I think there was one point Benjamin Mendy was literally walking with the ball, waiting for players to approach him as if we were 3-0 up. And it's like, we're 1-0 down. Where's that urgency? It was really kind of painful to watch. I don't mind losing.
Benjamin Mendy. Why is Benjamin Mendy even in the team? You've got to play Zinchenko or put a makeshift left back there. He always seems to be a weak link when he plays.
I mean, it says everything that Benjamin Mendy is an out-and-out left back, and Zinchenko is a makeshift left back. He usually plays obviously in the centre mid for Ukraine, and now he's our first choice. Zinchenko at fullback. It kind of tells you what we need to know about Mendy. Like, yes, he's been hampered by injuries and it's unfortunate, but he just looks too slow. He doesn't react quick enough. He's not very strong defensively, despite being a bit of a unit. The only thing he's got is one hell of a left foot at whipping a ball in, but you want more from your left back, and he often loses possession. He's often found out of position, and for me, I drive him to the airport straight away if there was another club that wanted to come in for him. But
he's not great. But so I think we've got minus 1100 on Man City, which isn't, no one's going to be betting on them at that. No. So you have to go Man City. If you're doing the handicap line, you have to go Man City minus 2.5. Do you think they can cover that, or is that too steep?
I still think it's too steep. Like I said, I don't think City are at the races just yet. For them, it's about getting minutes. Looking at Norwich, they were outclassed by Liverpool in the season opener, but they still managed to create some chances. They did quite well. I think, if I recall, they actually might have had a bit more possession as well than Liverpool, which says a lot. And I think that's an improvement for Norwich. And like I said, and as you've already mentioned, the market suggests that this is going to be an absolute rout, like another 5 or 6-0. And I just don't agree. There were over 2.5 goals in 10 of Man City's 19 home games last season, so just over half. But if you factor in that they aren't match sharp, I'd be very surprised if this was a blowout like the City teams of the past. I think if this game was 6 weeks down the line, then I could be saying something very, very different. I just don't see it going that way. So I am going to oppose the goals lines in this, and I think City just want to get more minutes under their belts, get players back up to peak fitness. The likes of Kyle Walker and what have you, they've not really had much chance to get any game time yet and get those minutes into their legs. So for me, I think it's just about getting the job done. I really do. And I do see the class prevailing. So there's obviously no doubt, as we all know, City, of even their second string side are probably would fight for top 4 in this league. So, but yeah, I can see City just getting the job done and potentially claiming a clean sheet. So for me, I was sort of small stakes, but I do quite like City to win and potentially under 4 match goals. I'm thinking maybe a 2 or 3-0 because I think they'll keep it tight at the back. I'm not sure Norwich will score, but I don't see City going out and running riot. It's quite evident they still need a striker. That whole Kane saga is still ongoing, so we'll see if that can kind of get over the line. But at the moment, as the teams are, I think City just try and get that job done. So City to win and under 4 match goals, I think is a good punt.
Yeah, I actually think Man City could win this one 3-0. It's the sort of game I can see taking a lead, sitting back, and then knocking in a couple towards the end and not really making much of a sweat throughout the game. What do you reckon, Matt? How do you see this one going?
I'll make this one nice and simple. It's a pass. It's been bet up from minus 900 to minus 1100, which is, it shows how powerful this Manchester City team, are. But I don't expect a 3-2 Norwich thriller like a couple seasons ago. That was one of the best matches you'll be able to really see. And it's a very simple pass. I think that Norwich did create some chances, though, last week against Liverpool, and I could see them maybe being able to create a couple here. It's just about if they take those chances. I think this one will be relatively competitive for a decent amount of time, and then kind of like what you touched on, Martin, City throw 2 or 3 behind them basically towards the end.
Yeah, well, they lost 3-0, didn't they, to Liverpool, who played without a recognised striker. So Man City go with a similar sort of tack. I think they could pull off a similar sort of scoreline. Okay, we're going to move on swiftly to Brighton versus Watford. Both of these teams picked up impressive wins in the opening weekend. I was so impressed and happy to see Brighton get that win at Burnley. They went 1-0 down, and I think it was the sort of game that Brighton would have lost last season, but they kept on going, they kept creating chances, and they got their reward. Watford wasn't expecting that at all, but they opened their account with a victory over Aston Villa, all like you said, because of Ismail Assar, who just absolutely terrorised the right-back target. So we'll start with you, Matt. Brighton versus Watford. Home win, away win, draw? What do you think?
I think that I'm looking at goals here. I mean, can you imagine if Neil Maupay spent the entire summer, actually working on his finishing, and it pays off in match day 1? I mean, if he can just start finding, the goals really for this Brighton side, I mean, they could be really dangerous. We know about how many chances they create. But yeah, I was a bit shocked to see, I think the total's a little bit too low here. At 2.5, you're getting a 2.3 to 2.35 number here on over 2.5. Both of these teams were able to attack brilliantly last week. Like you mentioned, Brighton coming from behind. Watford just guns blazing. Like George mentioned earlier, Ismail Assar down the flanks against target was it was a bit unfair. And I think that maybe it's time for him to take his next step in this league, getting another season in the Championship. Still staying in the Watford side, which is kind of surprising when you look at some of the rumor mill and whatnot. But yeah, I think that it's just too low. When you're looking at, you can even get an over 2.25 here at basically even money. And so if it lands on 2, you would get half your stake back. I'm looking at goals here. I don't see any reason why not to stick with the week 1 trend and how many goals and how many over 2.5s we saw in week 1. I think we see it here too.
Nice. I'm just going for Brighton. I think they get the job done at the Amex, full crowd behind them. I know Watford were good in the first half of their game, but they fell apart for me a bit in the second half, and they were kind of hanging on towards the end. I think Brighton should be too strong for them. What's your take on this one, George?
Yeah, I wouldn't try and dissuade you from going on Brighton. I think they're a great side. I think Potter's done a great job there. And as Matt said, if Maupay can start finding that net, then they could be quite dangerous and a dark horse for anywhere in that top half. And so I'm excited to see how they get on. But yeah, like I said, I wouldn't dissuade you. Got that narrow victory at Burnley, but it showed character to come from a goal down, particularly at Turf Moor, which takes some doing. But they'll be slightly disappointed. I think their new signing, Mwepu, who they were very excited about, he came off at half time as he had a very, very tough Premier League debut and didn't quite look at the races. But they've got Lallana, Moda and Veltman back available to them as well. So that's obviously an extra boost. I think Lallana is such a classy player. And I remember when Brighton signed him, I thought that is a fantastic acquisition. He's just got the know-how. He's very, very fluid with the ball. And yeah, they dominated the ball at Turf Moor. And I think we'll see the same here. I think, Watford looking to hit them on the break with Ismail Assar. I think that'll be their tactic for the majority of the season. But you do wonder, how long is that going to work for them? At some point, it's quite clear to see that Ismail Assar is probably their best player, the player with the most quality. And you do wonder, if you take Ismail Assar out of the game and double up on him, what else have Watford got? Villa weren't obviously able to do that, but at some point they will. And Brighton are obviously the classier side. And yeah, both teams have scored in the last meeting between these two at the Amex, and I think we could see the same again. I think there could be goals in this one. Watford on cloud 9 after that result against Villa. Yeah. Brighton, with that team spirit of coming from behind and winning. I think we could see goals. I just think for me, I kind of want to see how both these sides get on, so that I can potentially look at them further on throughout the season. So it's purely a watching one for me. I'm not going to have a pick on this one, but if I was, I think I'd go on goals.
Fair enough. I'd take a 2-1 to Brighton. I'd be happy with that. Thank you, Elias, for saying it. I'm glad you said it, and I'm not the one that has to say it. Arsenal have signed Aaron Ramsdale and Martin Odegaard, so the Champions League is just sewn up. There's no danger now that they're going to finish top 4. Do you know what? I think they're actually probably going to win the league. And maybe next season they're going to win the Champions League.
Well, hang on. Can we
Ramsdale,
just say
who is Donnarumma? No, Ramsdale, best goalkeeper in the world. Odegaard is just like the next Zidane. He's a genius. Arsenal going to win everything. Don't worry.
Outrageous. Can we get a quiet clap for Arsenal board though, who sold Emi Martinez for 19 million, to then go out and buy Aaron Ramsdale for 30?
Yeah, perhaps not their brightest move, but I don't think they realised that Bernd Leno was just going to fall apart. Again, we have Neil Maupay to thank for a lot of things, but not Bernd Leno's deterioration. Okay, but thank you, Elias. I'm sure we are going to finish top 4 now, no doubt about it. We're going to move on to Southampton versus Manchester United. What a performance from Man United. I have to say, I did expect it against Leeds, who are just so gung-ho. They just leave so many gaps at the back, and Man United are the masters, the absolute masters of counter-attacking. What's going to happen in this one? Who are we just talking to? Were we just talking to George? Yeah, come on, George. What do you think? What's going to happen in Southampton versus Man United?
I think we'll see United coming away with the 3 points. I really do. Obviously, we spoke recently about Southampton and sort of how concerned we were about them in terms of their forward line. Obviously, Armstrong, he's a good player. He was good in the Championship. I believe he obviously scored. But I just think long term, where are the goals going to come from? And James Ward-Prowse is available, which is a plus for them. But then you look at this United side, there's just no comparison. They're a sheer class above. And, that result against Leeds, like I said, despite the fact I think it was, maybe you can read too much into it, but it was slightly undeserved to score that many. They did, and they look classy. Pogba looks brilliant. I believe he assisted 4 out of the 5, and Bruno Fernandes looks on form, so he's going to be buoyed. And yeah, also they made a habit last season of winning from behind, didn't they? But I don't think that'll be the case here. I think this one could be relatively straightforward. I think United I think they've got Southampton's number in this one. I really do. You look at Southampton's game against Everton, and Everton created some very good, clear goal-scoring chances. And I fear for them when they come up against United, that just from the quality they have, I think they're going to carve them apart. I really think they'll open them up time and time again.
Yeah. I mean, it's not the Southampton that we once knew, really, is it? They seem to have a clear plan in place before. Yep. They'd sell a player and they'd already know who they were going to bring in. They sold Van Dijk. They invested the money very well. They keep doing it. But this summer, it just feels like they're losing a lot of players and they don't seem to have a clear route to getting a good team back together. So I think they could be in for a bit of a relegation dogfight. I'm certainly going for a Man United win, a pretty comfortable Man United win here. Not sure if you've got a pick for it. No, I don't think you do, George. What about you, Matt? Do you have a pick for this one?
I do. It was pretty clear cut for me. United and over 1.5 goals at plus 100. It could be the best bet on the entire board. I think kind of what echoing what George just said. I think it's just going to keep going time and time again. Southampton, yeah, they haven't spent the money properly. I mean, maybe that's kind of, the pandemic issues with the club. Maybe, that's sucked some of the money out a bit where they haven't been able to reinvest some of the sales that they've had. So, yeah, I'm not going to complicate it too much here. I think that United should be able to get the job done. I'm a bit shocked, they're even at, the minus 160 range in this one. I mean, I think that they could be even bigger than that. I think that Southampton are going to sit back, though, and I think that they're going to make United at least have to, kind of play a little bit better, in the final third and not just kind of go out like Leeds did, guns blazing, and then just hit on the brake. I think that Ralph Hasenhüttl will have a bit better of a plan, and so yeah, I think I can see it maybe taking a bit to score the first one, but yeah, I'd be. I think United and over 1.5 goals. I mean, United team total, whatever. At plus 100, it's a good bet.
Yeah, that's banker material for me. Man United and over 1.5 goals looks great. They're trying to get you to say Norwich in the chat, Matt. They're talking about
Norwich.
Silent W. Or if you're from there, you're a bit more like Norwich, right? From Norwich.
I've been working on it the past couple seasons. It was pretty bad a couple seasons ago.
I think you've got the silent W, but thank you, piss in a teapot. I love that, piss in a teapot. Just go piss in a teapot. No, great. I think the pronunciation is on point. Okay, Wolves versus Tottenham. Big game for Nuno. What a start. What a start to his Premier League career. I mean, beating the champions without Harry Kane in the team, weakened team. He's going to go back. He's going to know Wolves inside out. But are they going to be determined to get one over on him, Matt? What do we see happening in this game?
I think that you made the best point, and that's what I was going to talk about. It's just how well Nuno Espirito Santo knows this Wolves side. He knows their weaknesses. He knows where they're strong in areas. But we talked about it last week. I mean, they're two most creative players on the wings and in the middle of the park, really everywhere. They can play in many different positions. When you're looking at Podence and Neto, that they're not going to be here. So it's a big problem for me. I think that's why Wolves really weren't very creative last week on the road at the King Power. And I think that Spurs, their ability to understand this Wolves side, obviously coming off the high of beating City too. And then, they played in the Conference League a couple days ago, but thankfully Nuno rested all the big guns. So, he's got one eye on this fixture, and I think he does get one on Wolves here. I really do. This is one that I didn't really necessarily agree with the market, that it drifted from plus 110 to Spurs in that plus 140 range. So now, you're looking at, you can even get a minus 135, minus 140 on Spurs draw no bet. I'm not really saying that's the way to go. I'd probably rather take just the straight money line if I had to, but I don't think Tottenham are getting beat here. So I think that maybe a parlay piece, Spurs draw no bet, looks pretty good. And yeah, I think that he just, his knowingness and his understanding of this Wolves side should be able to push Tottenham over the line.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I went for Tottenham draw no bet. I put it down on my picks at a pretty stingy minus 145. But yeah, it's actually improved since then. I think I can get about minus 137 on it now, which looks great. George, do you see Tottenham getting beaten in this game?
No, I don't see them getting beaten, but I am taking a slightly different approach on this one. Obviously, it's a huge game for Nuno. It's the Nuno derby, if you like. And looking at that game with Wolves and Leicester, they didn't obviously create loads, but I think they had some of the better quality chances that they were just wasteful with. But I think Leicester have got a much more solid defence than this Spurs side, and it's a bit disjointed at the moment. Obviously, you've got Christian Romero who's just come in, who is a fantastic centre-half, probably in my top 3 centre-halves of Serie A last season. So obviously he got a run out during the week, so it'll be interesting to see if he's involved here. I just think, even though the market's sort of opposing goals, and obviously under Nuno it was notorious with Wolves that they were low scoring games, but I just think with what's on the line is the emotions are going to be there, particularly obviously with the fans too, obviously welcoming Nuno back. I think we could see both teams score here. I've got it around 1.75, so minus 133, and managed to find it at plus 105. So I thought it was as a value bet. I thought both teams to score was a really good shout, because I worry about them both defensively as it stands, and they both leave spaces for attackers to exploit, as we saw obviously at the weekend, particularly with Wolves. And City, like I said, they had their chances against Spurs, just couldn't take them. And I just think Wolves might be the ones to be able to actually score against Spurs in the league. And I think we could see an end-to-end game here, particularly if Wolves continue to play that 3-5-2 that they love. I think we could see opportunities for both sides here. So for me, both teams to score at plus 105 was the value bet in this one.
Just one quick question, real quick, George. So does your model then, when you're looking at that both teams to score, does that incorporate Neto and the likes of Podence being out of this lineup too?
Yeah, I've incorporated that because obviously I look at the team news beforehand just to see who's available and who isn't. So for me, I've still got it at around that price, and so the fact that it's so far over that price, it represents value to me. And I do think, just with everything else that's on the line, like I said, and the emotion in play, I think we could see both teams get on the scoreboard here.
Okay. I just can't see Spurs losing it after. It would be such a come down to beat Man City and then go lose to Wolves. I can see him at least getting a point there. So I think my money's safe. Could be famous words. We'll see. The next game, I don't even know if we really need to bother analysing it. It's Arsenal versus Chelsea. We've got Ramsdale.
Game one.
This is your time, Martin. Take the mic. Seriously, we got to hear from you.
Just give the 3 points to Arsenal now. It doesn't really matter who else plays. Chelsea aren't going to score. Ramsdale's a beast. Odegaard's not going to play. He's not going to be fit. He's not going to be ready in time. Visa issues and stuff. But what do we think? 4-0, 3-0, 4-0 to Arsenal. What do you think, Matt?
This is it's. I have to go with the Blues here. I just do. I know, and this is the thing, is I know that Arsenal played Chelsea extremely well. I think that one of the luckier victories of last season was when Arsenal scraped that 1-0. When Thomas Tuchel was at the helm, Chelsea just didn't have their boots firing. They had their eyes on other prizes. And now I see this Arsenal side. I've got to pick on them. I just have to. I have to pick on this side. No Gabriel, no Partey. No Partey. I don't want to partay with this Arsenal.
No party.
I just don't. So I'm going to go with Chelsea. It sounds today it came out that Lukaku could make his debut. Most likely he'll come on in the second half. But yeah, I mean, I just think that Chelsea will be able to grind this one out. It'll be interesting to see, Martin, do you think that Arsenal are going to be able to keep the back door closed enough to save my Chelsea in under 3.5 at 2.4?
Yeah, I don't see Chelsea scoring in this game with they'll play. I mean, Donnarumma being the best goalkeeper in the world now, but Aaron Ramsdale, he's a legend. I think I don't think we'll get hammered. I'm just so excited by this comment from B. Beerens, who says, "Is that Martin or Andres Iniesta?" I wish I could have played like Andres Iniesta back in the day. I was more of a poor man Sead Kolasinac bombing down the left wing, but that's I'll take that. Thanks. I don't know. I just don't know what's going to happen in this game. Arsenal probably going to lose, but how are they going to lose? Who knows? George, what do you think? 5-0 Arsenal? Ramsdale clean sheet, surely.
What do I think? I think that Iniesta comment has absolutely broken me. It's so on point. Oh my word! Oh, that's really good. Oh, all right. I need to focus. No, with this, I see goals in this game. If I'm being honest, you look at the sort of last head-to-heads. I think 5 of the last 6 have seen over 2.5 goals. And as Matt already said, Arsenal have they've done well against Chelsea in recent years. They could be struggling and losing to the worst teams in the league and somehow pull out a result against Chelsea. I don't think that's going to be the case this time around, but I wouldn't discount them scoring against Chelsea. I really wouldn't. Arsenal, that defeat against Brentford, I think, might have given them the kick up the backside they needed. Obviously, you've still got players missing, but you're not going to want to repeat of that. It was embarrassing, simple as that. And players, when they're in games like that, they want to kick on and they want that game to come as soon as possible so that they can put that right. And I think we might see that here. Particularly, it's the perfect game to do it in against this Chelsea side that seem to be unstoppable at the moment. Just winning a trophy every other game, it feels like. And in front of their fans, it's going to be interesting because we know with Arsenal fans, they're not ones to sort of always get behind their team. If anything, they're the ones making it worse and booing and getting on top of them. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on, because what was strange is that result against Brentford. I mean, I was looking at the next managers to go prices. I think Arteta before that game was around 7-8 to 1, something like that, and he went into 5-4. And it was like, that's just due to the media pressure from the fans that you see everywhere. And yeah, the pressure is on. So he wants to get a good result in this one. But you look at Chelsea, as we've already mentioned briefly, they were dominant against Palace, and as expected, they cruised to that win. Lukaku's.
I know what you're trying to do, though, George. You're just trying to get Arteta to replace Guardiola at Man City because you know what an amazing manager he is. I can see what you're doing. Hands off Arteta. You stay away.
That would be like replacing prime Iniesta with Martin Green. Like, you don't.
Yeah, I don't think he would have scored the winner in the World Cup final. Sadly,
you don't do that. But no, it's going to be the interesting one for me with this in the matchups is Ben White against Lukaku that a lot of people have made. Watching Ben White previous years, he's been very good in the air, been good with his feet. But last weekend, against Brentford, he was involved in 8 aerial duels and he lost 5 of them. And that was against the likes of Ivan Toney. And Romelu Lukaku's a different beast in terms of the physicality. So it's how's he going to fare with that one? And I think that's going to be a key one to watch. It's not the ideal person you want to go against when you're trying to settle into a new team and a new defence, having to face someone like Lukaku. But yeah, I see this being yet another entertaining game. I really do. And so I'm plumping for the overs on the goals. I think, at 2.1, so plus 110. I think there's a little bit of juice in that price. Maybe around evens is probably the lowest I go. But I just see with everything that's on the line, with Lukaku coming back, potentially if he starts, he's going to want to get amongst the goals straight away. Arsenal want to have a response to that Brentford loss. For me, I just see overs on the goals here. So yeah, I'm just being nice and simple with over 2.5 goal line.
Okay, thanks, George. No, Lukaku's running scared. He's like, what luck? I've come back to Chelsea and my first game's against Ben White.
Listen to that sentence. Just listen to that sentence.
Like Ben White. It's going to be
I want a nice game, and no, Ben White. No one has ever said that.
That was perfecto.
Hey, perfecto. I'm Iniesta. Call me Iniesta. Right, last game. We're running out of time, so West Ham versus Leicester. We'll rattle through it. Does anyone have a pick for West Ham versus Leicester? Oh, do you know what? I think I'm the only one who does. I'm going for both teams to score an under 4.5 goals in this one. I can see it being 1-1 or 2-1 to a particular team. Matt, George, you got anything on this, or just?
I agree. I echo the sentiments of both teams to score, and somewhere maybe in that mix of either over 2.5 or under 4.5, like what you're going with, Martin. It's on Monday. It's on a new week, so might save that one for later. But when you're just looking at the last fixtures between these two, 3-2 West Ham over Leicester last time, 3-0, 4-1, 2-1, 2-2, 1-1. Most of the time, both teams to score does come in, and there's normally goals in this fixture, and that's kind of where I see it as well.
Okay, thanks, Matt. George, passing.
Yeah, there's no picking this one for me, but when I was looking through it, I do agree. I do think there's usually goals, and I think it'll go that way again. In terms of the actual sort of goal prices, there was no value in the prices for me, so I've left it alone. But I do quite like your bet of the both teams to score in the unders. I think that's probably the way to play it if you're gonna go on this one.
Fantastic. Thanks, George. Okay, it's that time of the video. Esteban, please could you bring up the picks? You'll see all our faces as we're doing it because we're just super high tech now at SBR. So yeah, Esteban, when you're ready, let's have them. So I'm going for Aston Villa -114. I've got Tottenham draw no bet at -145, but it's gone to about -137. You might even get better odds if you hang on a little bit. As I said, both teams to score an under 4.5 goals in that West Ham Leicester game at +110. My favourite bet is Man United and over 1.5 goals at -125. Matt is going for both teams to score an over 2.5 goals, otherwise known as the Alex Classic in the Leeds versus Everton game at even money. He's got the same bet as me for the Man United game. I don't know what he's thinking with this one. Ludicrous. Chelsea and under 2.5 goals. Aston Villa, Newcastle, both teams to score -120 is his favourite pick. George's favourite pick is both teams to score, I think, in that Wolves versus Spurs game at +105. He's also got Liverpool and under 3.5 goals at even money. He's got Leeds to commit 11 or more fouls at -118, and he's got over 2.5 goals in that Arsenal versus Chelsea game at +110. Like it. Okay, thanks, guys. If you could please give us a thumbs up on your way out, and then head on over to Sportsbook Review and read some great reviews of some sports betting sites. Get involved in that Pick 6 contest. Maybe you'll win $50,000. Maybe you'll win $1,600 in week 1. Who knows? If you get your picks correct, you'll be cashing in for free. Thank you very much, George. Thank you very much, Matt, for your picks today. It's been a pleasure as always. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Thanks, Andre. Take care.
I'm trying to think of